Happy Friday and welcome to SJU. Today we are not talking about $1 million movies. No, we are talking about $1 billion movies. Did they hold up? Are they still worth $1 billion? Were they ever worth $1 billion? We're going to answer these questions and more right here on SJU, all in support of direct relief and Black Lives Matter. Links for how to get involved can be found below. I am joined, as almost always, by Joe Starr and Gilbert, who were kind enough to come up with this show today when we were too lazy to chime in about what movie we should review. I think I blame you, Spencer.
I blame myself.
I'll be the scapegoat. No, let's blame Joe.
Yeah, you guys can blame me, because also in that conversation, I was definitely not speaking up and being like, I will definitely review this.
Well, with that in mind, why don't you guys chime in?
What movie do you want us to review?
Yeah, let us know what movies that you would like us to review, and we'll start a little list and we'll go through them. We'll just knock it down. Hi, Sarah. But for now, we are going to talk about billion-dollar movies and if they hold up. This is a list via Insider and Box Office Mojo and Just Fact. These are all movies that have made $1 billion worldwide total, not adjusted for inflation. So let us go through category 1, comic book movies.
Oh, yeah.
This is in ascending order. So the least profitable will be what I say first, and the most profitable will be what I say last. I think that's what Ryan told me. The Dark Knight, Joker, The Dark Knight Rises, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Far From Home, Aquaman, Captain America Civil War, Iron Man 3, Frozen 2. Why was that there? Thank you, Ryan. I was saying it as he deleted it, and which I appreciate. Thank you. Black Panther, Avengers, Age of Ultron, The Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. So just, right there sparking what stands out is really great still.
I thought
they all kind of run together in my head, but yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. Looking at the list, initially I thought the interesting thing was that just in hindsight, obviously Infinity War and especially Endgame being like the end of that whole chapter feels like $1 billion movie. But The Avengers is the only one that's sort of like on the page really sort of pops out to me as like, oh yeah, of course that was $1 billion movie. That was the first time you saw all these heroes get together and stuff like that. And then it's just sort of funny to then see like all of the like solo superhero movies surrounding it that just also started hitting $1 billion marks. Also, Aquaman is definitely supposed to be on there because it's great.
You liked the octopus.
Give me more octopus drummers. Give me more sharks with laser beams attached to their heads.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Aquaman.
Yeah,
that's what was missing from the mix.
We hold the world ransom for $100 billion.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, behave.
Right before the show started, I was like, it'd be funny.
Yeah, none of these are a shock, I don't think. Like, it's all big team-up movies and Batman. That's like the running theme. So I guess the ones that stand out from there are Aquaman, which I also really enjoyed, but is a surprise that it's $1 billion movie just on the surface.
Yeah.
Fun. And then I guess Black Panther is the other one that you can always pencil in Marvel movies to be successful these days, but to be $1 billion movie, Black Panther, Captain Marvel are the standouts to me where I'm like, oh wow, that was made $1 billion just as solo movie debuts. That's kind of shocking.
Yeah. Are there any on that list that you have seen recently or haven't seen in a while that you think doesn't hold up, that's $1 billion? We're going to get to a few later that are real barkers, not in this list necessarily, not really in the comic book list, but later on in our show, there are a couple movies that I'm like, $1 billion for that. Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting because, Spencer sort of mentioned Black Panther. And especially looking back in hindsight and remembering just the energy around that movie, where it felt like holy shit, like Black Panther's doing something. Have you seen it? Maybe Dark Knight Rises, even just like Spider-Man Far From Home, which a great movie, but when you sort of start to make an equivalent between the sort of energy and relevance behind Black Panther that drove it to $1 billion, like that doesn't necessarily like jive with me for Spider-Man Far From Home, you know? I didn't have just like gangs of friends who were like, we're going to see this every day for 2 weeks, like Black Panther necessarily had. I think probably hindsight culturally, Iron Man 3. I really like Iron Man 3, but it doesn't necessarily feel like $1 billion film.
Well, it's an interesting thing when you bring up those films in particular, because I remember in my experience, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch one of the early screenings for Black Panther. And in the first 3 minutes, I feel like the hair on my arms was standing up. It was because Sterling K. Brown showed up out of nowhere. And it was this amazing. I was like, I know this movie is going to be incredible in that moment. And I really did love it. And I really do think it's a special film. And I still believe that. There's a couple of them on that list. You know, you mentioned Iron Man 3, but I think the interesting thing about Iron Man 3 is because it was so divisive amongst the base that we, in our minds, think it wasn't successful. But in the mainstream, it was hugely successful. I mean, made 1 billion. That would be we could
do it again.
Yeah, at that point, we could. That's the moment where.
Pinky up.
Okay, very good. I'm going to move on.
We hold the world ransom for $100 billion.
The reason Iron Man 3 did so well, or like got taken to another level, is China. It was a huge global hit. They promoted it worldwide even more so than other Iron Man movies, to the point where they had an entire subplot that got cut from other regions' release of the film, where two Chinese doctors just discuss Tony Stark's like course of treatment over a couple of scenes, and they just, there's no one else from the movie in it with them. They're just talking about how they're going to doctor Tony Stark. And you didn't get to see that in the American version. So they were clearly going for a global audience. And I do suggest that everybody watch the cutscenes from Iron Man 3 because they're very funny, and Iron Man is nowhere to be found.
Is that a direct cut or a capitalist's cut?
Yeah. What's the difference, right? They're really hard to find on the internet, but they're worth your while.
So, Ryan, couple things. We're going to chime in. I want to hear what the audience is saying. Are there ones that they really, really don't like, or that they think still really stand out and stand up to this day? I'm not surprised to see the array of Avengers at the top of that list. But I had forgotten that, and I am surprised that the Batman films are the lowest part of the list, because I think in my mind, and I guess you have to put it in the context of the time that they came out, which was earlier than the real wave of comic book movies that we've seen today. Yeah.
And without
Dark Knight would have been a juggernaut. Sorry.
Without inflation adjusting, like we're missing, well, not from comic book films, but I feel like the fact that those came out 8 years earlier than Endgame, 10 years earlier, that probably would have given them a little boost up the billionaire list.
Mm-hmm. I also want to note that I say divisive and you might say divisive, but it's
a divisive topic, Roth.
But I'm right, even when I'm wrong. I think that I've learned that from leadership.
I just think in general, our culture needs a little less divisiveness.
Poison.
Yeah. We need less diverticulitis.
Yeah. More
fiber.
More togetherness.
Yeah. We need bread. Toast.
Toast. Oh, no.
Let's hear from the audience. Ryan, what are they saying? What jumps out to them?
A couple things to the audience. A couple people were noting that I think it's interesting how some of these movies, if you remember, they kind of got their $1 billion from bumps from other $1 billion movies. Like at Tiago Barreo says Iron Man 3, just like Thor 2, got that post Avengers bump. Mm-hmm. And then at Blu-ray says, well, Spider-Man Far From Home was the epilogue for Endgame. So they're both kind of putting out that. I think that now you get $1 billion movies off of $1 billion movies. At John Bainbridge says Wonder Woman is one of the ones that of all these $1 billion movies that he's surprised isn't there, especially when you talk about the energy of them, like how not all $1 billion movies feel the same and stuff like that. Yeah, and a lot of Aquaman love. A lot of people saying like, hey, Aquaman was pretty fun.
We said that
Yeah.
just now with the octopus.
We're with the people.
Right.
We're standing with the people on that one.
We're with the people at the center of the earth with the dinosaurs.
My complaint about Aquaman,
Not weird enough.
which no, it is. So I think it was the right amount of, that is my complaint. It was the right amount of weird, but what happened is like, I just really like being immersed in weird worlds like that. And because particularly very few people have that kind of money to create those kinds of worlds. And it felt like we were going through them so fast that I wasn't able to spend any time really in Atlantis or in like the deep or like any of these crazy areas where I just wanted to hang out there. There was too much sand, I think is what I'm trying to say.
That you don't like sand.
I don't like sand.
But then you wouldn't have gotten a Pitbull's cover of Africa when they go to the desert in Africa. That's how you knew. You were
but
in
that
Africa.
My only complaint was, remember like the fish people that actually looked like fish people?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what the Atlanteans should have looked like, and that
more
that
realism.
Mira should have looked like one of those fish people, and that's who Aquaman falls in love with. I think that's where I would have gone with it.
And when they talk underwater, it should just sound like, but like you'll have
And
subtitles.
translate in the subtitles, like
And even the soundtrack should switch when they're underwater, so it's like hit the rains down and out.
you guys remember when they released the first footage and they had the bubble things?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember the
That's
bubbles? They got rid of those.
Can you imagine how much longer that movie would have been if before everyone spoke they paused to activate their bubblenators?
Hold on.
I also want to say, I just
Trident.
don't like What's Up Atlantis because there was a couple of times that it was like emergency situation and we have to get into battle right now. But then the ladies would somehow miraculously show up fabulous. Like they would just be in outfits. And I was like, when did you change?
It's part of the bubble. It's part of the bubblenator. It just puts on just a nice smoky eye.
I think the people are going to be mad at us because they think that Joe specifically is making fun of Aquaman.
I love Aquaman. I love every doofy, weird thing about it. I think it's weird and silly and dumb in the best way. I love that movie.
We're gonna move on to a couple other categories here. Unless you guys have more on the comic book movies, more thoughts.
No.
It's just like I look at that list and I'm like Marvel episode 3, Marvel episode 7, Marvel episode 9, like and I mean that because they're all good and you know what you're getting and you're gonna have a good time. So it's not surprising to me that people just automatically see the next one. Like they can rely on making $1 billion on pretty much any old crap they put out. But thankfully it's not old crap.
I almost think too, especially as we move forward into the other categories we were talking about, sort of that, and plus talking about the not adjusting for inflation. I think almost tells a more interesting story because it's, again, like what you guys were saying about it being front loaded with Batman. I think that almost tells a more interesting story about how big The Dark Knight was when it came out, that it wasn't just in this like sure thing tumbleweed role of comic book movie hits.
But to the point, and that was an excellent point made in the comments about how the biggest predictor for a movie's success is how well received the one before was. So it was, we had Batman Begins and people loved it and it kind of like reinvented the genre and then you had time to catch up if you hadn't seen it in theaters. And so the sequel did really well. There's a couple of sequels that we'll see a little bit later that are not good movies, but I think were benefited from the movie that came before. And that's why they were very, very successful. And also some of it's just befuddling, but we'll get into that. Star Wars.
Real quick, sorry, one good comment from the chat I just saw from Matt Benson, TN. There was this year, 2017, for the MCU where they had 3 movies kind of make $850 million, but not $1 billion. And that was that run of Guardians 2, I think Homecoming and Ragnarok. And we were kind of surprised in the chat that Ragnarok didn't make $1 billion, but then we think that now maybe Love and Thunder might have a chance to because of how popular Ragnarok.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Also, Wonder Woman just came close, but didn't quite do it.
There were some people saying Wonder Woman 84 had a good chance in a regular release world. Obviously, that Wonder Woman 84 maybe would have had that chance to make that jump to $1 billion as well.
Yeah.
We hold the world ransom for $100 billion.
Did we talk about Star Wars? Nothing but
We usually
Star
don't. So
Wars.
let's talk about Star Wars.
I've heard of those films.
Star Wars. Okay, here's the order. Again, in ascending order. Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, sorry. Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Star Wars, The Last Jedi. And Star Wars, The Force Awakens. The curiosity factor on The Force Awakens, I think, tells the story there. Because it was this return after years and years and years, long anticipated. Disney had bought it, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, Star Wars is interesting because it's kind of a reverse Marvel where the first one always does the best. I know if you look at those inflation-adjusted ones, like New Hope is in the top 10 movies of all time for sure. So if New Hope, Phantom Menace, and Rise of Skywalker always do the best, they should just keep rebooting Star Wars, just keep making Star Wars trilogies and just quit after the first one.
Yeah.
Then you just have to wait 10 years.
Yeah, wait 10 years, make a first Star Wars movie, and then wait 10 more years.
I think for the ones that aren't on the list, because Phantom's on the list because of the 3D re-release is what over. And so I think they should do a solo 3D re-release. I think the original trilogy, the Ewoks movies, any Star Wars thing that hasn't hit $1 billion, I think you do the 3D re-release.
I'd watch a 3D holiday special because you get to watch that weird VR porno that Chewie's uncle gets off on.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Roth?
No. Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Oh boy. Okay.
Roth, if you haven't watched the holiday special, we're gonna just make that an office event where we all.
I actually haven't. You guys did the trailer for it though, yeah?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's worth watching.
It's Chewie's dad. He puts on a VR helmet and like gets real hot and bothered by a music video from who is it? It's not Donna Summer. It's Diane Carroll.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Because Star Wars.
Because it's Star Wars. She does like a futuristic disco dance in front of him, and he's like, but these are like various Wookiee noises. It's great.
Okay. All right. Well, office party? Virtual watch
Yeah. Well, I'll put it in the Google Calendar, and I'm gonna call it "We Watch Roth Watch the Star Wars Holiday Special."
Okay. Wait. What was the movie we were all supposed to watch together that we never did? Cats.
Cats. We've all seen Cats.
Yeah, but we never watched it together.
You're right. We didn't have a communal Cats experience. Damn you, COVID.
Yeah. It's too bad. COVID. Cats.
COVID is the butthole cut.
Yeah.
Really is. Yeah. Good. We want to hear from you guys once again on Star Wars. But first, Joe Starr is going to thank you for hanging out with us on this Friday morning, afternoon, evening.
You know what? Yeah, I guess I will. Hey, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, watching our goofy stuff. We have Troy Baker on Hey Fandom today. It's at 3 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be great. If you have been watching Hey Fandom, then you know that they've been super, super fun. It's just like an all hands kind of AMA. You get to step up onto a podium and ask your question to the people that you like and just talk to them for a minute. And I think just something cool about it is that it's not just like an AMA where someone reads a question and goes, great question, and then sort of gives a response. There's like just genuine interaction and love exchanged. And I think they've been really, really fun. And Troy Baker is always a really great interview. So I'm really excited to see what he chats about. Trisha Hirschberger, maybe you've heard of her, will be hosting. She's awesome. I think it's going to be super fun. If you want to see some of the previous Hey Fandoms we've done, Rob Paulson, Pat Casey, Ben Schwartz, like there's been for some reason I could only call Ben Schwartz Sonic in my head for a second.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic, the guy that did the fun improv thing on Netflix that you should watch. It's very fun. Those are on fandom.com. You can get to them directly through fandom.com/video.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe Starr. We are also, I don't think we have the links for these ready yet, and Ryan will correct me if I'm wrong, but things to look forward to next week is we have Nolan North in a Hey Fandom on Tuesday at noon, and then on Thursday at noon we are going to have our very first trivia event on Pokemon that Joe Starr is going to be hosting, and will be your chance to win money, cash money. So go home, study up on those Poke persons, Poke animals, Poke friends.
Pokemon, it's in the name. They're just Pokemon. They're Pokemen and Pokewomen, but mostly they're Pokemon.
All right, Pokemon gendered. But
They are. You can breed them.
Study up on that. Joe Starr is going to be there to host that, and we will have more details on that next week. But again, it's your chance to win dollar bills from us. Take Fandom's money. Okay, let's talk about a couple other ones in different categories, and then we want to check in again with Ryan and the chat. Back to the billionaires. Category 3, Disney. Oh, here we go. Woof! Alice in Wonderland, Zootopia, Finding Dory, Pirates of the Caribbean, On Stranger Tides, Aladdin, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Toy Story 3, which is, in my opinion, the very best movie of all of the movies on this entire list. It's great. Toy Story 4, Incredibles 2, Beauty and the Beast, the live action Frozen, and The Lion King. Yay! Alice in Wonderland.
That's the old Avatar follow-up, right? It was the next 3D movie to come out post Avatar, so everyone was like, OMG.
And I guess that's like height of Jack Sparrow, maybe. Like
those really throw me, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Two of them on there, and the only good one is the first one and part of the second. So I can't tell them. I literally cannot tell them apart. I don't know which pirates those are. Is that 3
Stranger
and 4,
Tides
2 and 4, 3 and 5?
One, right?
Who's to say?
Because
yes, the third one did not make $1 billion. Like it dropped, even though it was a year after Dead Man's Chest, and then it came back after a hiatus, and then straight.
That's wild.
Ryan, can you test us? Give us a pirate's title, and we have to guess which number movie it is,
or if it's real.
Or if it's real. You can also.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I got that. At World's End.
That's 3.
5.
Joe was right. It's 3.
We just Monty Python. 1.
How did we
2, 5.
both guess the same wrong number?
It felt like a 5th title.
It does.
I totally get why the second one's on there, because I think the first one was such a. It's weird that the first one's not on there, because that felt like a phenomenon for a year. But I get that everyone was super pumped for Dead Man's Chest, but the fourth one, with almost none of the returning cast, that's bizarre to me that made $1 billion.
What was happened in that one?
I don't.
The fourth one?
know.
Yeah.
The fourth one, I think that's when they got rid of. Did they get rid of Orlando Bloom and like replace everyone with their non-union equivalents?
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't it
The Fountain of Youth, I
priest?
think.
The Fountain of Youth and the Mermaid.
It was a mermaid and a priest.
Yeah.
To a bar.
Yeah. Mermaid and a priest and Jack Sparrow walk into a bar.
Yeah.
Jack says something about, "Where's the rum gone?" and collects his paycheck.
So good.
All right. Are any of these on this list that you think are great?
I guess in context of like, it was worth $1 billion. I think Frozen is more of $1 billion song. I think that should have an asterisk and just have Let It Go in parentheses.
No, it's a good movie. It's not just a song.
It's just
there's plenty of movies that have one good song in them. It's not a bad movie. I think we just got very annoyed with it because of the song.
maybe
It's not a bad film. I've rewatched Frozen.
No, it's not bad. It's just I think what drove it to $1 billion is the song. As much as I adore
I'm gonna send
Zootopia,
you an article, Joe.
do what?
So my friend Lucy wrote this article about Frozen and why it was special and what was special about it. And I'll be honest, like when I first saw Frozen, I was like, yeah, it's cute. I just don't understand. I couldn't quite grasp why it was generating the kind of response it was. And then I read her article and I saw it in a completely different light. So I'm going to share it with you and see.
Right on. Look, I love two things. I love warm hugs and I love hot takes. So like, yeah, I will totally read that.
Yeah. The take is toasty.
Inside Out, not on this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think Aladdin and Lion King, you know, I'm obviously biased because that hit me in my sweet spot as a kid. So those are fantastic films. Beauty and the Beast 2017 makes me sad to see that on here. The original's good. And yeah, Toy Story 3 is, like you said, a genius film and top of the Toy Stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's one of those films that I think does, I have to go back and watch it, but at the time I really was like, this is a very rare one. We say it about Pixar a lot, but it truly does transcend. It's really in its own way more grim dark than any Batman movie. Like
all the
that's
Toy Story movies are
fair.
about like, they're so grim. It's about like having no purpose and being left behind by like they speak to such deep, horrific anxieties about aging, but with toys. Woo!
But they're beautifully written and very like they're incredibly effective movies, but not in a way that a lot of times you can feel yourself being manipulated. And even if you're okay, like sometimes I'm okay with the manipulation, you know. I'm like, yeah, I know you're pulling on these strings, but that's okay. I think it's subtly pulling on those strings. We like Toy Story.
I think it speaks to how good the franchise is too, that people came back to $1 billion level for a fourth one.
Yeah.
I think that it should rarely happen. I mean, apparently it didn't with Pirates, but I feel, especially after Toy Story 3, I do feel like people are like both of you say, like that's the top of the trilogy. What do you do after that? And I think the fact that the audience had enough faith to go, okay, we'll come back at a high dollar amount level to see if you can top it.
Yeah, I like Toy Story 4. I just think that third film is so brilliant that I can imagine the temptation to go back to it would be hard to resist for a lot of reasons. But I don't know. It's not like I don't wish 4 would exist, but I almost wish 3 was the last one.
Yeah. You know what surprises me that's not on here? And it's just, you go back and you're like, oh, because toys. But Cars.
Yeah.
Like Cars is their money printing machine. Cars is like why we get to have Toy Story 4s and cute little short films about pork buns and stuff like that.
Merchandising.
Yeah, you go back
about,
like it's the Cars flamethrower. The kids love it, you know.
Well, we're gonna get into the rest of these, like the final billion dollar movies. But first, Ryan, what are the people saying?
There's a good amount of talk comparing Aladdin to Lion King, which was a big thing last year because it was like, you know, Aladdin kind of got this idea of being the surprise, for being like kind of surprisingly fun, and whilst Lion King was more of the shot for shot remake. That's at Hus D21. Aladdin was okay, but the Lion King was just a live action shot for shot.
Oh no! Were those on the list? The live action remakes?
Yeah, those are the remakes.
Oh, I rescind I rescind.
Oh, sorry.
Comments.
Yeah.
Those are from last year. Yeah, I should have noted that. Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion about Lion King versus that. Some Inside Out love from John Bainbridge. Inside Out is the most emotionally manipulative movie of all time. It's literally about being manipulated by your emotions, and even knowing that, it still hit me right in the feels.
That is kind of, I do love the meta of that's what the movie's about while it actively does it. That's pretty great. I do think there is to respond to that. I do get a little sad that Disney is so successful with these sort of like questionable level of quality or creativity remakes, but they just keep cashing giant checks out of them.
There's got to be diminishing returns, right? Like they can't.
At some point.
Look, I know every zillennial or whatever y'all are called is going to stab me for this, but it's like if they make a live action Emperor's New Groove or something, it's not going to make $1 billion. Like you're going to get into that era when people didn't see it that much the first time. And I know I can feel you all typing.
How dare you?
I can feel it.
It's like, you know what it's like? It's like a very, very subtle but disturbing tingle on your skin.
Yeah.
As if a billion voices suddenly cried out and then were extinguished.
Well, this is the internet coming. Let's do the rest. All right, we got The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, Jurassic Park, Despicable Me 3, Transformers: Age of Extinction, James Bond: Skyfall, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, Transformers: Dark of the Moon, Minions, The Fate of the Furious, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, which is the only Potter film, Furious 7, Jurassic World: Titanic, and Avatar, which at the time was a Fox, not Disney release. Anything jump out to you on that list as besides the Minions, which is a whole thing I just don't understand, but I'm not too.
I love it that on this list it's spelled Meninos. It's misspelled on our list, so that's maybe why I didn't get angry, because Meninos sound very cute.
Sounds very adorable. I totally want to see Meninos.
People love it. I mean, they really love the Minions. kids really love the Minions. I mean, I'm not kids, so it's like other than emotionally, but like, so I guess it's just not meant to speak.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like they were a cute small piece of Despicable Me, and they're they're very simple and they speak gibberish, so of course kids are gonna love it. And then they took that so far and just crammed so many Minions down our throat for that era that like the backpacks, you couldn't look away without seeing a little Minion on a back. And things went too far, much too far. The Minions movie sent me into an apoplectic rage. I can't think or look at anything yellow anymore without my temperature rising. So
it's hard for Roth and I living on this end of the city because we're so close to Universal Studio, and there's a giant Minion like on top of the hill, like looking over a building, and we can see it at all times.
And it's frankly very judgmental.
Yes, it really is. It does not look pleasant.
Yeah, watching.
What does Angry Spencer look like? What happened?
I think I'm just sweatier, I guess. No,
he starts switching out words. Like he'll stop using words like hands and start calling them mitts, stuff like that. That's when Spencer's starting to get mad, is when he gets derogatory with some of his nouns.
Yeah, I turned into an old timey street tough. Talking about putting up your mitts. But yeah, the Minions were hopefully I can speak about them in the past tense. Were a plague that, much like COVID, I just had to hunker down and let pass over me, and try not to die.
So do you guys remember the movie Mortal Engines?
Yes.
Who could forget?
Yeah. So I actually went to visit the set of that film in New Zealand, and it was a Universal film, as you probably know. And part of the mythos of this world is like, there's been this event, the world has ended, and then they're trying to piece together whatever the history of the world was. So there's like this museum of everyday objects that they get wrong. And so like we walked through this museum and there was so much detail in it. So they'd have cell phones, but they wouldn't quite understand what the actual functionality was and things like that. But there's a giant statue of a Minion, as if people had worshipped it, and it was like one of the deities of the former world, which is for a time that was not untrue.
Yeah.
To be fair to Universal's corporate synergy.
Thanks, Synergy. Showtime, Synergy. I think the Jurassic World sequels speak to the power of the first Jurassic Park movie. I think that movie just has fueled people with infinite goodwill. And the third one can be Chris Pratt playing beer pong with Blue. Actually, I take that back. That sounds fun.
That's amazing.
I watched that. Sorry.
Go on.
The third one could be a boring version of that, and it'll still make $1 billion.
Joe, there's
blame,
no boring version of that.
There's no boring version. Exactly. I blame other movie studios for not trying to take some of that dinosaur pie. They're just leaving all the dinosaur money out there for the Jurassic World franchise, and it sucks. And I don't count Godzilla, but where are the other? Where's the Dinosaurs Attack movie? Yeah, where's
Dino
the Dinotopia
Riders?
Movie? Where's the Dino Riders?
Dino Saucers?
Where's just an original dinosaur film? Untitled Original Dinosaur Project 2020.
Give me a dark and gritty the baby from the dinosaurs. Like, can you turn that baby into Logan?
The Dinosaurs is literally the most upsetting ending of all time. How do you get more gritty than grimdark than they're extinct now?
One of them survived.
Here comes the comet.
I see $1 billion for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and I think, people will see anything with a dinosaur on it. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, and it's really, you know what, legitimately, Spencer,
love them.
For a town that thrives on imitation, why are they leaving that dinosaur money on the table?
There's a lot of dinosaur money. I have a weird design question for both of you. If they updated the look of dinosaurs for movies to include feathers and like everything that like scientists have been quietly shouting in the background, like, no, they look different than the thing from your textbook from 1960, would we go see it? Or would we be like, that's not a dinosaur?
Wait,
I think
you're saying it looked like a giant chicken?
Yeah, we'd laugh,
Yes.
but that would be just as terrifying, if not more, to be chased by a large bird.
Yes, I would fully go see a giant chicken running around.
The acceptability to the human brain like design question is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like, if they went back and changed the raptors so that they're just covered in feathers in the first Jurassic Park, like.
Have you ever been attacked by an ostrich? I mean, I haven't, but I imagine it'd be really scary.
You know I have, Spencer.
I've been chased by geese. They're very violent. It bit
Because
my
you had all
butt.
that toast in your pocket.
Well, I had toast, to be fair, but they chased me, and then one of them straight up bit my butt. It bit me right on the cheek.
Did that get you as afraid of birds as you are nervous about robots?
No, I have mixed feelings, but I have complicated feelings about robots. I'm not afraid of birds, but I do not mess with geese.
Okay.
Specifically geese. What's the chat saying?
Would you go see a movie called Robots v. Birds?
I'll let you know what they say to that.
Is it a giant bird?
Some of the chat is pointing out the only other dinosaur thing is Land Before Time. At Claire Vineyard points out that for kids, there was the Land Before Time franchise for a long time.
Yep.
And I want to let me find who they were, but someone pointed out that Good Dinosaur, like really bombed when they tried to go like a Pixar dinosaur route, and so maybe
These are
that's
for like
the-
children. Like I want dinosaurs that'll rip into a big. I'm thinking of the Flintstones. That'll eat a giant rack of ribs
steak?
that'll make your car tip over.
You're just thinking of the huge meat offering? Okay.
Adarudad Targaryen is saying, would love to hear you guys' opinions on Return of the King in this category, as that one was a big one and it often gets compared to, a lot of movies are sometimes told like this is the Return of the King of this franchise or something like that. But that's just, people don't remember that one being.
I mean, Return of the King was definitely the Return of the King of Lord of the Rings. I think that trajectory was correct. I think Fellowship of the Ring deserved increasing returns. Two Towers also deserved increasing returns, and I think full story wise with that trilogy, there's things I can nitpick all day, but I think both money wise and awards wise, that trajectory was correct for Lord of the Rings. I think Return of the King deserved all of its Oscars. I think it's easy to be dismissive and be like, oh, well, just got them because they just closed the chapter on this huge milestone in movie making. But also, how often does that? Well, now it happens a lot, I guess, with the MCU and stuff like that. But I think multiple endings be damned. I think Return of the King was a very good closeout to just a massive undertaking in film. I think box office wise, it earned what it got. It took us from, what are you doing? Sorry. Right off camera shenanigans. And I think it took us from, when we were still looking at Yahoo News trying to find out who Orlando Bloom, this kid that was going to play Legolas, was, all the way to, sitting through the credits of that third movie. This has been my Return of the King talk. Sorry.
That was wonderful.
Bravo.
Okay. I think, Spencer, did you have something on Return of the King? I think he said it all really
Yeah, you
well.
said it all. It's really good.
It works.
Yeah, no, that was those are all of the things.
Gondor. Frodo.
Well, we're going to dive back into Mordor around these parts. But first, I just want to propose to Joe that, yes, I would watch a movie about a robot via a bird if it was the bird-like creature that is actually a dinosaur and a mecha version of that.
What if hordes of modern day birds merge together to form that bird monster?
Like a bird,
Like a legion,
Like a super intelligent bird network of birds.
like a vulturon.
A Voltron.
Well,
Yeah, like a Voltron.
then yes, I would.
Classic
watch that film.
Voltron.
Yeah, I would watch that film. Should we end the show?
I don't think we can top Voltron.
Okay, $1 billion.
You know how much money Voltron's gonna make?
We hold the world ransom for $100 billion.
Oh, you came back to us. I really didn't think you were going to do that.